Snow White and the Seven Keys to Doomsday, written by Justin Richards. Long ago, in a cosmos far away, death came to winter. The planet of winter had been at peace for thousands of years, and its people lived together in harmony, from the tall aristocrats to the diminutive minesmen. They lacked for nothing, and felt that they had everything, so they were unprepared and ill-equipped to oppose the tyrant who rose from among them. There had always been kings and queens and lords and aristocrats in winter, but for the most part of the planet's ruler, they wanted what was best for the people, the general good, the preservation of peace, and the well-being of the people of winter were the main concerns. Sadly, all that changed when King Drextor came to the throne. Drextor was the son of King Matthias, a great and noble ruler, loved by all. Drextor was quite a different character to his father. However, from his earliest years he craved power. He delighted in ordering people about, and went to great pains to see that he got whatever he wanted, the great pains being those he inflicted on others. As a king, Drextor was not loved like his father. In the past, on the rare occasion when a ruler of winter had overstepped his boundaries, or began to view themselves as more important than the people they served, that ruler was deposed. The aristocrats and the commoners would agree between themselves that the ruler must go, and a delegation of the aristocracy would simply inform the monarch that they were no longer the ruler of the people of winter. But King Drextor had taken precaution. He had made sure that this would never happen to him. Before he even came to power, Drextor had begun work on a machine, with the help of his father's artificers, that he was certain would allow him to rule unopposed and in whatever way he wanted. The machine was completed on the day of his coronation, and his first act as the new ruler of winter was to show it to the council that advised the king on all matters. As the members of his council listened in horror, King Drextor explained how his Doomsday Machine could make the air itself burn. It would only be switched on by inserting 7 keys into the 7 locks, all of which the king kept safely stored in secret locations around his palace. Any opposition to his rule, the king explained, any attempt to remove him from power, and he would use the Doomsday Machine to destroy the whole of winter. The rule of King Drextor would have been long and cruel, except for 2 things: love and poison. Drextor was immune to none. The woman he loved did not love him, but she pretended that she did, in order to take the Doomsday Machine from the tyrant king. He was so blinded by his love from her that he did not even notice. He was likewise oblivious when she stealthily slipped deadly poison into his wine. Only when he was clutching at his burning throat did he become aware of the deception, but by then it was too late for him. His treasonous lover watched with satisfaction as he died. With Drextor dead, it was up to the council to appoint a new ruler, but before they did, there was a matter of a Doomsday Machine. The council decided that it should be displayed in the royal place as a reminder of Drextor's cruel tyranny and as a warning against the same thing was to happen again. To ensure the machine could never be used and that Doomsday would never come to winter, the 7 keys were taken and hidden. 1 key was hidden in each of the 7 provinces of the land, and the people of winter continued with their lives, happy and safe from tyranny. Until Queen Salima came to the throne. Salima was not the kindest ruler that winter had ever had, but nor was she the cruelest. The council had occasion to rebuke her, but she always seemed willing to accept their criticism. She would hang her head, as if ashamed, and promised to take an effort to think of the people in the future. Outwardly, she gave the appearance of someone taking effort to become a kinder and more generous person. The truth, however, was quite different. Malpeth White had worked at the palace all his life. When he was a junior groundsman, he fell in love with a kitchen maid named Elsa. By the time they were married and their first child was born, he was head gardener and his wife was the palace housekeeper. When they saw their baby daughter for the first time, Malpeth and Elsa saw their skin was pale and smooth, and unblemished and beautiful as the palace lawns after a fresh fall of snow. So they named the child Snow White. As she grew older, Snow White also began to work in the palace. She cleaned and she tidied, and she helped in the kitchens and in the gardens. All the while, she grew more beautiful, her skin retaining the perfect, soft quality for which she had been given a name. One day, when Salima had been queen for over a year, White was cleaning the room where the Doomsday Machine was kept on display. By this time, everyone in winter who wanted to had seen it, and the visitors were few and far between, so the room where it was kept was rarely cleaned. Therefore, as she crawled beneath the machine with her cleaning clothes, polished dustpan and brush, Snow White was confident that she was alone. She worked with such focus and concentration that it was only when she saw two pairs of feet pass by, close to where she was lying, that she realized she was not alone at all. Snow White paused her work, wondering what she should do. There were two people, and they were talking in low voices, one of which she recognized. It was the Queen. If I reveal myself now, Snow White thought, it will seem as I thought I've been eavesdropping. What's more, she had no idea how long the Queen and the man she was with had been here. So, out of embarrassment rather than guile, Snow White stayed where she was, hidden from sight. However, now that she knew the Queen and the men were here, Snow White could not help but listen what they were saying. Much of it she did not understand, but it was clear the man was an engineer. He explained to the Queen how the Doomsday Machine was designed to work, and showed her the places the 7 keys had been removed. It was only as they discussed the keys, Snow White began to understand the purpose of their visit. If these keys were away, Queen Salima said, then what use is the machine to me? Unless you can make it work again, I shall forever remain at the beck and call of a fool in the councils. I shall be cursed forever to do what the people believe is right and good. There was suppressed anger in her voice. The Queen's tone had risen, and Snow White had no doubt at all that she made the right decision in remaining hidden. It is my destiny to rule, to be obeyed, to have people do my bidding. Queen Salima continued. Make this time machine work again, and I shall truly be Queen of Winter. The people will tremble when they so much as breathe my name. On one wall of the room was a large mirror. It had originally been placed there to throw more light onto the machine. Visitors could see it better. Now, Snow White found that she could see the Queen and the engineer reflected in it as they examined the machine. The engineer slid open a panel on the side of the machine, revealing an hidden screen. I have made an extensive study of the original plans of this device, the engineer said. And you are right, of course, Your Majesty. Without the missing 7 keys, it cannot work. Nor is it possible to recreate those keys. But there is a facility that the Council do not know, of which will help you to gain the power you seek. Snow White strained to hear, and silently pulled herself a little closer to the edge of the machine, so as to get a better view. The engineer was working at some controls, which were set into a panel on the side of the screen. I do not pretend to understand exactly how it works, or all the device can do, he was saying. But the machine was designed to be a whole. It communicates with itself, not just through gears and wires, but also through the air. A picture started to form on the screen. It was indistinct, gloomy and dark. "What use is that to me?" the Queen demanded. "And why do you show me nothing but a darkened room?" "But, your Majesty," the engineer said, his voice low and husky with excitement, "the machine knows." "Knows? What do you mean it knows?" the Queen snapped. I could hear in Salima's tone that she was quickly growing impatient. "It knows where its missing keys have been hidden. It can sense them. It can feel them. And, on its screen, it can show us where they are." Snow White could see the engineer wringing his hands in the mirror. He looked just as nervous as she felt. All was silent, while the engineer waited anxiously for the Queen's response. She looked at him fiercely for a moment or two. Then she laughed. The engineer appeared to relax a little. "The Council does not know of this?" she asked at last, when she had stopped laughing. "No one knows of this, excepting myself and your Majesty," replied the engineer. "And where is this room in which the first key is hidden?" the Queen demanded. The engineer looked down at the ground. "Alas, I do not know. All I am sure of is that this key is hidden in the province of Switzerland. But if we examine the image, there will be clues. Find that room, and you shall find the key. It may be a long task," he added, "but if your Majesty truly wishes to restore this machine to working order—" The Queen considered this. "Show me the other keys," she said at last. The engineer pressed a button at the edge of the screen, and one by one the location of each of the other keys was shown. One was between books on a dusty shelf. Another was resting on a high ledge above a window and was bathed in bright sunlight. One was under a rock beside a pond. Another in the hollow trunk of an old tree beside a wide lawn. One was in a cupboard, hiding among all manners of bits and pieces, and the last key was hanging on a hook behind a large tapestry in a dining hall. "I shall find them," the Queen said quietly. Even in the mirror, Snow White could see that her eyes were filled with burning ambition. In that moment, Snow White knew she had to stop Queen Salima from acquiring the machine's keys. The Queen and the engineer talked for a while longer. Snow White paid close attention as the engineer showed the Queen how to operate the screen, and listened carefully as the Queen made plans to try to work out where each of the locations could be. By the time the two had left, Snow White was stiff from lying so still so long, and her throat was dry from breathing the dust. She pulled herself from beneath the Doomsday Machine and wondered how she was going to stop the Queen. She could, she thought, go to the Council, but how likely were they to listen to her? Would they take the word of a young girl working in the palace over one of the Queen herself? It seemed unlikely. And once Queen Salima became aware that Snow White knew her evil, and the girl would not live long. Being diligent, Snow White finished cleaning the room. As she worked, she thought more about what she had seen and heard. She wondered who she could tell what she should do. Her only course of action, she knew, was to try to locate at least one of the 7 keys to the machine before the Queen could. This decided, and the room finally clean, Snow White hurried over to the door and closed it. There was no way of locking it, so she simply had to hope that no one would come. Snow White went over the machine and opened the panel inside, just as she had seen the engineer do. She struggled to remember which of the controls he had used to activate the screens, but after some trial and error, the screen glowed into life. Snow White stared at the dark image of the room where the first key was concealed. There was little she could make out that was of any use. The shutters were closed, and there was hardly any light. From what the engineer had said, Snow White knew that the key was in the center of the image. That meant it was inside the wooden truck, placed beside the table that was piled high with books and paper. But Snow White could not see anything which gave any clue as to where the room she was looking at might actually be. Reminding herself that she needed only to find one of the keys, Snow White reached for the control she had seen the engineer used and brought the next key up on the screen. As she did so, though, she accidentally pressed another button. She pulled her hand away quickly, afraid of damaging something. For a moment, Snow White thought that nothing had happened. And then she noticed the image seemed deeper and richer. It was now as though Snow White was looking at the room through a window, rather than seeing a picture on a screen. Curious at the effect, she reached out and tapped the screen, and her hand passed through it. Alarmed, she pulled her hand back. She had felt nothing, though. Her hand seemed fine, so she reached out once more. Yet again, her hand went through the screen. In fact, her whole arm did. It was as if she had reached right into the room. Snow White withdrew her arm, trying to work out what this meant. She went and got a chair from the other side of the room and placed it behind the machine. She then climbed up to the chair so that she was high enough to lean forward and push her head through the screen. Sure enough, she found she was indeed inside the room. She looked around, seeing parts of the room that had not been visible on the screen. When she turned to look behind her, she found that, somewhat disconcertingly, her neck stopped at the point where it came through the screen. If there had been anyone else in the room, they would have seen her disembodied head staring at them. Snow White withdrew her head, climbed down off the chair, and sat down to consider things. If she could get into each of the rooms through the screen, then she did not need to know where they were. She could simply collect all 7 keys and bring them back through the screen of the palace. There was just one problem. The screen was only wide enough for Snow White's head to fit through it. There was no way she would be able to climb through. But Snow White had an idea. Carefully, she slid the panel back into place over the screen, being careful not to touch any of the controls. She would leave the screen as a window for now and return later, when everyone else in the palace was fast asleep, and she would not be alone. Among the people who worked for Snow White's father in the ground of the palace was a group of 7 mines men. Their fourth father had worked in the mineral mines. Their shorter stature and leaner bodies meant they could squeeze gaps into areas that no one else would ever manage. Snow White knew the minesmen who worked for his father as well. They were friendly men with long, straggly beards that reached almost to their feet. So, as darkness fell, Snow White made her way to the minesmen's hut in the palace grounds, where she knew they would be about to have their supper of hot broth and oatmeal bread. The minesmen listened attentively as she told them what she had overheard and of the queen's plan. When she had finished her story, Elgar, the oldest and wisest of the wise men, nodded grimly. "We have each felt the queen's wrath," he told Snow White. "She is forever finding fault with our rock, and ordering us about in the rudest manner. I thought it was because we were minesmen, and from what you say, she would like to treat everyone with such contempt." The other minesman nodded their head in agreement. Snow White told them her plan. While they waited for the night to grow old, the minesmen shared their broth and bread with Snow White. Then, once the place was cloaked in darkness, Snow White led the minesmen quietly across the grounds of the palace. They snuck in through a small side door that she had left unlocked. When they reached to the Doomsday Machine, Snow White opened the panel. She was relieved to see that the window into the other room was still open. The room was even darker now, for night had fallen across all the 7 provinces of winter. Each of the minesmen was keen enough to help defeat Queen Salima's wicked plan. As the most senior, Elgar insisted on going first. He climbed up to a chair and disappeared head first through the screen. The others watched as he tumbled into the room beyond. He hurried over to the trunk and retrieved the key that was hidden inside. Snow White reached her arm through the screen and helped Edgar to scramble back up and through it. Then Snow White moved the image to the next location. Each of the minesmen took their turn, tumbling through the window and returning with one of the Doomsday Machine's key. Finally, R7 had been retrieved. "What do we do now?" Edgar asked. "We destroy them," Snow White said. "Break them into pieces." She placed 6 of the keys onto the floor by her feet and held one in her hand, ready to try to snap it. But at exactly that moment, the door slammed open. Queen Salima strode into the room. Her face was a grimace of rage as she stared at Snow White and the wise men. Her eyes locked the irreplaceable keys to her future power, laid out before Snow White, who held one in her grip about to destroy it. The queen hurled herself at the girl, but she wasn't fast enough. Snow White bent the key in her hands with all her might, breaking it into 2. At the exact moment the key snapped, Snow White was knocked aside by the queen. So it was that when the keys exploded into glittering orange and red fireballs. It was not Snow White who was engulfed by the flames. It was Queen Salima. The queen's screams echoed around the room. The other keys were caught in the blast and also exploded, one after the other. Snow White huddled in the corner of the room where she had been flung, sheltering her face from the flying debris with her arms. As the smoke cleared and the flames died down, she could see the crushed forms of the 7 nice men, who had taken refuge from the explosions in the other corners of the room and beneath the Doomsday Machine. Snow White slowly got to her feet, and the minesmen ran to her. She smiled down at the men who had helped her save Winter once again from tyranny. Then, together, they turned to look down at Queen Salima, who now lay dead among the charred remains of the 7 keys to Doomsday and her broken dreams of power.